All right, and ladies and gentlemen, we will have a best of 5 series, a part of the semi-finals match between danielek and Dictator. It's going to be a part of the No Rush November NR20 Tournament, generously sponsored by Mr. Amsterdam. $500 on the table. Both of these players are currently in the money. So even the loser of this match in particular, and supposing they also lose the bronze match, they will be entitled to some portion of that prize pool. I think the fourth place prize, $25, third place, $75. But in the money, getting into that first and second place position, the winner of that match, of this match, will be entitled to $250 or $150, if my math is correct. I don't think it is, but either way.
Yeah, I don't actually know the prize breakdown.
Yeah.
I didn't even know third place got prize money.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial. But today,
Yeah, that's
casting,
nice.
my name is Cometk, and I have Mr. DeBest, meisduhbest, casting alongside with me.
Indeed, as the name would suggest.
How's your day been so far?
It's been pretty good. I did eat my lunch before you, so if you hear smacking, it's definitely not me. Is it
Probably.
laggy?
Doesn't look like it on my end.
I checked my ping right before this just to be sure, and I was only on like 10 ping, so. But he is across the pond. You're NA, right? Just so we know everyone's allegiances before we
Yep,
start.
absolutely. I think Dictator's on
So
the
it's
East
3v1.
Coast. I'm on the West Coast. And where are you at?
And I am in Central, so I'm in Texas.
Oh, that's sweet.
So perfect.
Texas is a great state.
Yeah, so I'll admit I am a Nilla noob. I usually only play like Nilla civs, so you're probably gonna have to carry a lot of the mechanical parts of the Japan mirror going on because I really don't know a whole lot about it.
Oh, Jesus, it's actually a Japan mirror. I thought they had locked into Japan versus Germany. I think Daniel had Germany selected. Obviously, that would be a really, really bad matchup, but it is actually a Japan mirror, which kind of makes sense on this map, Siberia. I'm not sure exactly the map pool order, but Siberia is kind of just a little bit of a stringent map. It doesn't have a lot of wood, which would kind of fare more poorly for Japan in general, but I feel like just the resource distribution around the map makes it kind of easy and simple for a Japan player to boom with. And in addition to that, you can't take really like a civ like China because again the wood is just way too low, whereas Japan they can get the shrines and kind of get their wood count up, even though they are reliant on wood. Shrines they operate like factories, so you have some method of generating it. Taking a European civ like Portuguese or France is kind of inadvisable because just the layout of the map makes it hard to press an advantage. Whereas with Japan, you know, they usually get a huge mass out of units at 20. They're ready to go and don't need to wait for like any finicky plays. They can just barrel towards their opponent's base and pretty much be self-sufficient with the daimyos.
Yeah, that seems like a big issue with like a European civ having this giant ice barrier in the middle, not able to build anything on it. It's like if you push your opponent back and you try to FB closer to them so that you can keep pushing, it's gonna be really difficult. But with Japan, you have that mobile forward base that you can just train units out of. So
Yeah,
that's probably a huge benefit.
yeah. You take a civ
And the
like,
berries,
oh wait, yeah.
which is not
See,
the case on most maps. I think it's like Deccan is the only other map with berries. Is that right?
Deccan. Yeah, so Deccan actually has a lot of berries around the map. Siberia, of course, you only get the 4 berries here, so I think it's actually worse, slightly worse than like a regular start. You actually only get the 9k food instead of having 2 cherry orchards and 10k food. But
Oh, okay.
at least you do make use of the berries. You do clear out that spot as the Japanese player, so you get a little bit more space to build a base, I suppose. Whereas
Yeah, that's true.
the European civ would have to like deal with that little obstruction.
What kind of treasures do we have? I haven't been looking.
So I think the players have actually mostly gathered
Well, we're
what is
slacking
around
now.
the map. I see Dictator, the Trap Macaque, 45
85
coin.
wood.
85 wood is probably one of the best
Dictator has
treasures.
135 wood total. He got a 50 wood as well. Daniel got a 50 wood. So I think Dick definitely
Yeah,
has the upper hand in the on the treasures.
Yeah, a little bit of an edge. I think Daniel got 90 wood total, but he didn't get the coin. And then, of course,
Oh, did
Dictator.
he? Oh, he
Oh,
did.
actually, they did both get the coin. So Dictator just basically came out with half a shrine, a little bit ahead there, and Daniel like actually picking up another 45 coin. But I think in terms of treasures, worthwhile treasures, there is actually this last one, 205 food, and that's actually pretty easy to take in NR20 and just
Yeah,
treaty in general.
yeah. It the only problem is it takes a long time to get it because you have to sit there and kite 10 monkeys back and forth. And if the other player has scouted it, then they have plenty of time to walk even all the way across the map and steal it. So that's the only issue with that one.
It's actually a little bit easier in an NR20 build. I'm not quite sure what these players are going to go for, but I feel like I think most NR20 booms for Japan, they usually go to Colonial Age a little bit faster than the NR40 builds. I think in NR40, you usually build to max shrine population in Age 1, even if, like you can't shrine every herd on the map. Or like you're building shrines without, having the herds for them. But in Treaty 20, it's a little bit different. You see the player's Dictator already on the age up. He's got 120 shrine population at the
Yeah,
moment.
there is a little bit of disparity between them.
Yeah, Daniel a little bit
Dic-
slower. And is he aging? Yeah,
yeah,
okay. So he is aging a little bit. They're aging up at around the same
yeah,
time.
it's
But
about the same.
like you mentioned, just 2 shrines down, which is like, I guess, like 1.5 villagers.
And this treasure actually over here, if one of them manages to get it, if it becomes like a Yumi off,
Oh,
that's going to be really big.
oh
The 10%
gosh.
HP.
Yeah, that
I didn't know
actually,
that spawned on this map.
that did spawn here. I don't think it spawns all the time. It's maybe like 50% of the time, but still, that's going to be
Yeah, that's
pretty
giant.
decisive, really strategically. Like the player who gets that wants to play the long game, obviously. And when you aren't able to get that as the other player,
Yeah,
especially
like
in a mirror, like
contested
you kind of
right
just
here.
need to. Your whole strategy is thrown for a loop. Oh my god, 110 wood, that's
Yeah,
huge.
110 wood. Wow. It's a full shrine, almost.
That's more than that, even.
Yeah, well, if they, yeah, I'm sure they got the Portuguese consulate.
And Dictator was the one to pick that up. Plus, he's got the 205 food on his side of the map. He's aging up to Colonial right now, taking it too, going straight for it. And he's probably going to be able to collect that before he's, in the Fortress Age and needing to build town centers with his explorers.
Yeah, that's really nice. If you look, Daniel's distribution is a little off, I would say, compared to Dictators right now.
Daniel a little bit higher on the coin count, but that's not really what counts, especially because, when you're aging up, you also need to account for the villagers that you have in queue, especially with these Asian civilizations. So Daniel's going to be way up on the coin count. What are the upgrades that he has? Okay, so he hasn't gotten the tier 2 upgrades from the market, so it kind of does work out that he's a little bit heavier on the coin here. I'm not sure if he maybe canceled villagers in queue to get the food for that age up, but he is going to be uh, going up to 3 now, and both players at around the same time. And that extra coin that Daniel had distributed for is actually going to come in handy because he's going to be able to get those market upgrades
Market
immediately.
upgrades. Yep.
Yeah.
And we can see that Dick
Phew.
is still up one shrine. I know it's not like a huge difference, but there is like a you can tell the difference that little extra wood from the treasures makes.
Yeah, Dick even like in the transition to the Fortress Age, he got all of his, or not all, but he got the uh, the market upgrades for 10% to food and 10% to coin. Got those pretty early, actually, basically just after he aged. Definitely incorporating that into his build order rather than saving it for after he had began aging up. And like you mentioned, that probably had to do with just the little bit of an edge Dictator got in terms of the treasures.
Yeah, especially the 205 food. And you could tell right before he got that, he started putting a lot more villagers on coin, knowing that he's going to get that 205 food, and so it boosted his age up by a couple seconds. So it's the small things.
Yeah, even building that first town center right away had way more wood than danielek. Daniel now just about to get the wood for the first town center. I think it costs 510 wood if he's still aligned. Portuguese, yeah, and laying that foundation down towards the, I guess, southern position of the map.
He's actually building it with both explorers too. Whereas Dick is only building it with one. He's sending his other explorer to the other side.
Yeah, there you go. You see the other explorer.
Yep.
And 1, 2, 3 got that queued.
Yeah, and his second one is already going down as well. So he's quite a bit ahead on the town centers. So what do the fights typically look like? Is it just a typical Yumi Flaming Arrow micro off when it's a Japan mirror? Or do you think there's any room for like a Nagi push at the beginning?
It's pretty difficult with Japan because even though you're able to get 200 with the the normal start of Yumi, flaming arrows, and Yamabushi, it can be pretty difficult to get a good mass up at the 20-minute mark if you're making like a coin-based unit. Like even just Ashigaru, which aren't necessarily that coin heavy, you usually won't be able to get maxed if you're going for an Ashigaru start as Japan. Even on like Dekken, you won't get 200 out of 200 a lot of times. So if you're going to do something especially coin heavy like Naginata's, it can actually be kind of tenuous. I think if you were going to do a strategy like that, you'd probably need like at least a double layer of bastion walls, and then kind of to fake out your opponent, let him push in and get a little exposed, which could work, especially on Siberia, like we were saying earlier, with no ability to build in this middle portion of the map. If your opponent is pushing in, like that can be a really good opportunity to go for that cav switch strategy. But would I expect either of our players to do that in this particular game? Probably not, because it is pretty risky.
Yeah, I agree. And you can see here as well, you can tell where the players' samurais are, so you can tell what they're going to try to do. Dick's samurais are over here on the side of the map with the 175 coin with the tiger guardians.
Yeah.
And then Daniel's are on the opposite side next to the 10% treasure.
Oh god, maybe Dick hasn't even scouted that treasure.
It's possible, yeah.
10%
So
HP.
I imagine right after this town center, maybe not. I thought he would go up there with his explorers and try to take it.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. So obviously, since Daniel has like knowledge of this 10% treasure and he's going to go for it, that's definitely going to inform what he wants to do with his composition, because he's going to want to make the best use of that bonus. So I think we can definitely expect a Yumi and Flaming Arrow composition from him. I think the mistake that he just doesn't want to make is playing it a little bit too, what's the word? With lack of caution. So once Dictator, I think Dictator hasn't scouted this treasure, and it is very likely that Daniel is actually going to be able to get it. Either way, that's going to...
He definitely sees it now. He has a samurai up next to it. Okay. And he's sending an explorer over as well. Okay, so he definitely sees it.
So there is going to be a contention. But let's just play with the hypothetical that Daniel is still able to get this treasure. I think Dictator, if he saw that, Daniel was able to get that treasure, he might actually go for a Naginata start and try to, flip the script a little bit rather than playing the same game that Daniel would be trying to play. Still, it would be pretty difficult, that this 10% treasure is just going to change the outcome of the game, or just the flow of the game, what we can expect to see so much. And I don't know if that's necessarily healthy, but it is a part of the map, so I will graciously accept it.
Yeah, and Dictator actually has a giant lead on the H4 age up. Daniel had almost 2,000 coin before he reached 2,000 food for the H4.
Oh my gosh.
So he is really, really mismacroed, and it shows by the age up times. Dictator's probably 45 seconds ahead of him.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. I think so
you can tell by the score differential too.
Yeah, Daniel does have his shrines on food, so that's good. You should have that during the boom, because just 9,000 or even 10,000 food from your cherry orchards won't be enough to, go for a full boom and then age up to Imperial after that. But still, yeah, I mean, he's just so behind, and that kind of comes from just the better map. Like, we can say it was a little bit to do with the treasures, but now that Dick is, almost over 20 score ahead, a lot of that comes
Yeah.
down to the macro, and Dictator obviously
Yeah.
just,
Treasures snowball, but not quite that much.
yeah, very polished from Dictator.
Yeah, they have all their units over here next to this treasure, ready to take it. I wonder who's going to initiate it first, because no one has a crack shot, so it's really like it's more difficult than if you had like a European civ. You can just walk over crack shot one and then leave. And then when it gets down to the last one, that's when the contention is going to happen. But here, it's just like there's an all-out brawl, and then whoever can kind of click when they see everything happening. It's a lot more difficult, is what I'm trying to say.
But we actually see a little bit of a misdistribution from both players. Dictator actually, he has a little bit too much coin himself too.
Yeah.
His shrines are on food, so yeah, that just kind of just, I mean,
But even still,
yeah.
you can see Daniel's distribution is just a whole lot worse even then. He's already at 4,000 coin and only 2,700 food.
Yeah, at the same point, I think Dictator was at maybe 3,100 and 4,000 coin. But he's already up lightning fast.
Oh, Daniel did get the treasure.
Oh wow!
So that's a huge that possibly offsets the eco disadvantage that he has right now, or the boom disadvantage he has right now. I think the longer the game goes on, the more that pays off.
Absolutely, that's going to pay dividends. We do see the 2 cherry orchards coming out for danielek, which he's really going to need. So he's just now got the resources to age up, but his villagers have to walk a little bit before he can queue it up. A little bit of a slow age time, I think, even with all of his villagers tasted at Wonder, he's only going to get up at 16 minutes and 30 seconds, whereas Dictator is going to be up around 15:45. So Dictator has like a 45-second lead, where he's streamlining to get his Imperial upgrades. He's going to get the Imperial wood chopping upgrade as soon as possible and start distributing all of his villagers around the map to gather wood. He's already got the wall going up around his base and, just establishing his position for the beginning of the fight.
I'm interested to see if he deletes the pillars. I know he was talking, I forget when it was, that he was thinking about not deleting pillars anymore. Or keeping pillars, because he doesn't want like daimyos to run in and just spam a whole bunch of units in his eco.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, especially against Japan and especially in a Japan mirror. That can be kind of one thing that sways it, because like the Japanese military, while it's pretty good at sieging, with your Morutarus and your flaming arrows and Yamabushi, once you've kind of gotten to like a Yumi versus Yumi stalemate, one thing that can be kind of difficult is actually catching a running daimyo around the map and, the player, averting the fight to another position.
And Daniel did delete his pillars, but you can see his walls are really good. They're really nicely built. There's no holes in them, at least the part that's built right now. So it's kind of a trade-off. You either delete the pillars and save the wood, which is more important in a No Rush 20, for example, than a No Rush 40, or you kind of bite the bullet for the more expensive walls, but you guarantee more safety. So it's kind of preference, really. Let's see.
Taking a look at the shipment order, and
yeah, I was looking at that too.
Yeah, there's some insane divergence in these build orders so far. So Daniel actually went with an early good faith agreements so that he could get get that in time for when he was sending his Dutch improvements. But he's completely foregone economic upgrades, which is kind of interesting when you were able to get that 10% treasure that we saw him get. I'm not sure when that occurred on in this game, and if that informed the decisions danielek was making. But I think it's probably a good decision that he goes for these more military focused upgrades rather than going for like refrigeration and royal mint. It does mean he's going to be a little bit lower score at NR20 and a little bit worse off economically. But because his units are going to be so much stronger,
added on with the 10% HP treasure.
yeah, basically,
So I think that kind of it synergizes really well with the treasure that he got.
100%. What he wants to do most is just be able to hold and, survive to the point where, his late game is paying dividends. And in the early, what is it called? The early engagements in NR20, the economic difference isn't going to be that impactful. What's more important is that he's, stable and he has like a huge flaming arrow mass like we see right here. We see the guard flaming arrow. Oh my god. What's that?
And it probably, oh wow, he has so many flaming arrows. Wow. It probably is also like he knows that Dictator has years of treaty experience on him, so that his micro is probably a bit better than Daniel's, just from a pure micro perspective. And so he probably knows that he needs a little bit of an advantage. But we see Ashy's coming out of Dick.
I think that's an interesting choice in a normal, when both players go for a somewhat normal strategy. But we see Daniel not making any Yuumi whatsoever. I think he might have Bastion and Q pretty soon, but
is that 25 flaming arrows?
That's max pot. Yeah, there you go, bro. He sent flaming arrow hit points before 22. He's going a little bit forward. I would figure
bold strategy. Let's see how it goes. I mean, is there a way that he just, if he gets too far extended, Dick just walks in with melee Ashy and just wipes his flaming arrow mass?
I think it's going to be pretty tough because there aren't even that many Ashigaru here. There's only like 50 Ashigaru. We see the scores both about 600 for both players.
Here we go. And I don't think Dick scouted this.
Oh my god.
Oh wow. Honestly, at this point, you just melee and just walked him in.
Oh my god, but there's, the Shogun Tokugawa right there. That's actually going to pick up so much value. And this strategy, which might have actually proven to be really smart by danielek, while it did look good for the first, 20 seconds there, a Shogun Tokugawa running in there from Dictator still at max pop, and that just went really crushingly for Dictator, actually.
That's pretty devastating right there. He still has what 25 Ashies alive. Still some flaming arrows.
Oh, I think this is just a big strategic mistake from danielek. I don't think at all he needed to, fight at the middle of the map. I think he could have waited for Dictator to come to his walls, and even if Dictator had the 4 mortar shipment behind it and it was starting to siege down danielek's now bastion walls, he was comfortable just, staying behind this fortifications and firing away at Dictator's military and getting better engagements on the flaming arrow match that Dictator would have had best Daniel strategy. But by going forward and exposing himself to the Ashigaru, he bit off way more than he could chew, and he kind of squandered the potential advantage that he could have had, I feel.
Yeah, it's kind of fortunate that Dick went for Ashies. I think Ashies do better in what just happened than Yuumi's do, because I think Yuumi's just get a lot more countered by flaming arrows than Ashies would, just from the HP. And you can see it in the score now. And Dictator taking control of the flanks pretty significantly.
Yeah, with Yuumi's on...
Trying to keep him off wood.
Absolutely. Yuumi's on both sides to harass the villagers. danielek was able to put up some half-map walls, but he wasn't able to complete all of them. I think the one towards the north of the map got somewhat completed, but the one towards the southwest side is not at all.
Yeah, and you can see in his base he has almost no wood. So he has to get some wood from the outside of his walls here.
Even though danielek's getting a little bit harassed around the sides right now, even his shrine's getting sieged by the Yuumi.
He is winning the middle fight, though.
100%. He was able to clean up a lot of flaming arrows from Dictator, now pushing back the Ashigaru a little bit exposed. But he has honored Ashigaru himself that won't really compete with the exalted Ashigaru. But that is kind of a smart play. They'll do a little bit better to defend His own his own flaming arrows.
Yeah, he actually shipped those 14 Ashies. And that's just a consequence of him having lost the start fight so bad, having to ship units instead of upgrades. As you can see from Dick, he sent an upgrade, whereas Daniel had to send the 14 Ashy card.
Even still, it's looking like dire straits from Danielek.
And Dick's even sieging shrines over here with Yuumi. He's won the middle fight, and he's taking control of the sides, so this is looking... Daniel's gonna have to pull, I mean, I don't know, maybe get a running daimyo, maybe he's only choice at this part.
Yeah, really.
Like, just run a daimyo and spam mortars, and then just break in and try to do some lasting damage. That seems like the only option. But,
yeah.
You know, he has his walls, and defender's advantage is a real thing, so we'll see. And he has Yuumi against Ashi behind walls, so... And a larger flaming arrow mass, so we'll see.
Does have Yuumi, but they actually don't have any upgrades. And despite having a pretty good distribution with which to train Yuumi, like I mentioned, you know, he doesn't even have the upgrades. And while
Is Way of the Bow typical?
Bow. That's not the stream.
He didn't send it.
Yeah, I think.
But I feel like most people do send it.
Yeah. In fact, neither of these players have gone for like a Yuumi start, which is normally what is typical in a Japan mirror, I feel. But it does make sense to not do that because, like you mentioned, we were talking about earlier, like the Ashigarus perform a little bit better in a heavy flaming arrow versus flaming arrow engagement, just because they have the higher HP, as well they have a little bit better DPS, better speed. For a lot of reasons, actually, they perform better against the flaming arrows than the Yuumis do.
And actually, Ashies do better damage to Yuumis than Yuumis do to Yuumis. Because Yuumis don't have multipliers against other Yuumis, and Ashies have a higher base stat. So they do more damage in a just pure Yuumi versus Ashi fight. And if you can get up close, then they can oftentimes actually outperform. And yeah, he's going into melee with his Ashi on the flaming arrows. This looks really hard for Daniel. Over 100-point score lead now.
Yeah, even the honored Monotaros in the back actually going to start shelling. I think the original town center are actually going for the bank.
The bank first. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't really need the town center down as Japan, I don't think, just because of the daimyos.
Oh, that's absolutely true. So it is good
Probably
that
he's gonna go bank and then the Toshoga.
Oh, he is gonna get that bank down by the skin of his neck.
He did.
But losing this engagement, getting pushed back a little bit, wasn't able to train up the flaming arrows in time to reinforce his mass, and Daniel was able to get out a sizable, I think he's got 11 flaming arrows now on the field.
Yep.
That's going to be enough to hold for now, but like you were talking about, 100-point deficit. He doesn't have control of the sides of the map yet.
Yeah, and you can see the recalculated economic unit population. You can see the difference, and that's just a result of Dick taking control of the sides so dominantly. He's down 10 population on the economy side of it. And he's not even max. He just now got back to max population. He was down to 180, 190.
There's even a Haramoto Samurai on the side here. That's a really inventive use of it. Just a single Haramoto Samurai leading these this guard of Yuumis.
Yeah, he's got this side over here on lock.
Even can
you can see
Danielek, I mean, he did notice it. He's actually splitting off some of his flaming arrows to contest that. But I wonder how many shots it takes 2 flaming arrows to kill a Haramoto Samurai. Oh, they are focusing
3,
it down.
like. Yeah, 3 shots.
Oh, there
I'm
he
waiting
goes.
for a Hatamoto start from a Japan player. I'm just waiting for it.
It's definitely
It's gotta
possible.
happen, right?
Yeah.
Has it happened in the tournament? I don't remember it happening.
I actually don't think it has, but of course there is that strategy where you send the coin to export convert, and you're able to.
The trade. Yep.
I don't know if it's max pop, but you do get a lot of Haramoto Samurais, and against some civilizations it can be really lethal.
Probably not fantastic against Japan, just because the flaming arrows probably do pretty well against it. But against like France or something. They're pretty strong, probably. Maybe. Yeah, we can see Daniel. He constantly has a larger flaming arrow mass, but he constantly basically just trades it for Dick's army. So that what that indicates is that Dick's usage of his flaming arrows is more efficient.
Oh yeah, it's just so close. You see those two forward flaming arrows getting cleaned up, but this engagement is still. I mean, I was gonna say it's tenuous,
it's
but
not over.
yeah, there's plenty left in
It's
the
not
back
over
for
by a
Daniel.
long shot. Because, I mean, Dick isn't able to push, really.
I feel like so much of it just comes down to the reinforce.
And Daniel does have more resources in bank than Dick does, actually, which is surprising. He just has no wood. Wood is his problem right now.
Oh wow, yeah.
And he has no wood in base. He has like 2 trees in base.
Yeah.
That's probably, if anything's going to be the end of it, that's probably going to be what causes it.
Oh my
no
gosh. And look at this at the side. You know, he's
Oh,
wisely
yeah.
distributing his
Yep.
villagers, but he didn't clean up the units that were tucked away at the back of the base.
He doesn't see it.
He's
He
gonna
doesn't
lose.
see it yet.
Oh my gosh.
Man. That hurts. Yeah, and Dick's Ashies are a lot stronger than his as well. Daniels have less attack, it looks like. Or that just might be because they're walking away from the Daniels. Oh, look at it. He's just running down the flaming arrows. Wow. Using their speed. That's funny.
Yeah, but Dictator's
These villagers are still dying.
I think every single one is gonna get cleaned up.
Yeah, I'm curious how many villagers he's lost.
He's actually lost 22 villagers so far, and because he doesn't have like any villagers distributed to food on his paddies, you know, all of that is being put into coin production so he can maintain flaming arrow production. He's not really actually going to be able to train new villagers, and because he's kind of just he's got too much on his plate right now, he's just doesn't realize that there are 4 low HP unupgraded Yumis at the back taking care of his wood lines.
That's like, what was that, 10 or 12 villagers that just died for free, completely for free. Yeah, there's the GG.
So that will be game 1 to Dictator, and it is a best of 5 series. NR20, you know, this game went about 31 minutes, which is actually a little bit longer than some NR20 games go. Sometimes it's decided in the first 2 or 3 minutes. But this was pretty fast by the standards, I feel, of a Japan mirror, which you might expect in a very slow and long attrition war. But we saw some pretty good play from Dictator, especially in taking control of these sides and continually pressuring down danielek. That was basically just, you know, a tactical win for Dictator.
Yeah,
danielek not able to deal with the pressure, and thus, you know, he was out on one resource, whether that be food, wood, or, you know, yeah, food and wood, basically.
Yeah, you can see Dictator's distribution even now after the game is just, it's really nice.
Really good to streamline production for more Ashikarus.
What's the next map?
I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to take a look at that pool. But I just want to take a quick look at the graphs. See that first engagement.
Already. I forgot about the graphs.
First engagement, I think. So Daniel had 120 population. Dictator had 140. But at the end of that first fight, Daniel went down to 30 population, and Dictator was sitting at around 80. So yeah. Even though, like, I feel like danielek should have had the superior composition, even though it was a little bit trolly.
Yeah.
I really did not go to his favor. I feel like if Daniel just, you know, stayed in his base, didn't move like further than 10 meters from, you know, his forward walls, he would have been in a completely fine position, because once the forward shogun was coming forward from Dictator, he could have just ran back behind his gates and continued to hold the pressure, weather the storm, and then exercise an advantage with his stronger, what would have been stronger Ashigaru, but we
Yeah.
didn't see that. And danielek, I think, a very big strategical mistake, and then getting a little bit outperformed by Dictator in the middle game. Dictator had better control of the sides of the map, and then danielek didn't have the accessibility to the resources he needed.
Yeah. It was a start fight that kind of started the decline, and then it was the map control that kind of finished it. Your spot's been taken.
I can see by Big Fair.
He was spreading the love. I think Dictator's going to host.
Maybe they're just trading the maps. I'm trying to look at the map pool right here.
Yeah, because then we can kind of predict what the civilizations will be, which will be nice.
Right, there we are. So the second map will be on Andes. Of course, Dictator now leading the series. Okay. He's going to be forced to lock first. So currently selected, he has China. I'm not sure if that's his lock. Just give a question.
He has been playing China a lot on Andes, which seems normal. Do you think Daniel will choose to go into another mirror?
That's a possibility. Okay.
I don't know if it's in his best interest to do mirrors. Just because, like I said before, Dictator has so much more experience on him.
Absolutely. So danielek is choosing to counterpick with France, and that was kind of what I was anticipating, but something of note is that once, per the tournament rules of the No Rush November tournament, once a player has played either China or France once in the series, they can no longer play that after that civilization after that. So, whereas with a normal civilization like Portuguese or British, for example, you'll actually get a civilization reset after the halfway point in the series, and you'll be able to play them a second time. But with China and France, that's not possible. Once you've played one of those civilizations, can't play it again. So Daniel choosing France here, really going to be looking to take a win, because after this, he's not going to have the availability to pick France or China again. But as I like to tout, China is kind of the free win civilization. Or if that's a threat.
Yeah, wasn't it last round the Dictator played France into... Who did he play last round? He played France into China and did some weird native start and ended up losing the game.
Wow, was that really how he lost? That was versus Foire.
Yeah, he did like some weird native start with France against Foire's China and ended up losing that one. That was the only game he lost.
Wow, was that on?
But I'm curious.
Was that on Andes or?
It was on Andes, yeah.
Okay.
He was using the Inca.
I guess that is one way to lose the game. Is just going for those natives too early. They're too costly and don't really add too much to your contract.
Yeah, they are really good, but yeah, they're costly. Like 100 wood each. The Huamincas. Who do you prefer in this matchup? I tend to like China.
I mean, I would pick China in basically every matchup, in every map.
That's true. I guess that's true.
Except for maybe Deccan. I think Deccan is probably one of the better maps to be France against China. Probably France is a really difficult civilization to beat on the map Deccan. But neither of these players saving that for that map, instead both taking their once in a series pick, China, France, and the map is Andes.
Is the rule they can play China or France, or they can play China and France?
Yes, so once they have, so for example, I'm dictator, I picked China, I will no longer be able to play both China and France. I can't play either of those civilizations for the rest of the
Okay.
series.
Okay, so they can only play one.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
100%.
interesting. I thought it was once each.
आज सही मैं जा
Hello.
रही यार
All right, Andes usually doesn't have that great of treasures. Well, actually, this is RE Andes. I'm thinking of the Isak Andes. So there are some good treasures. There's the villager
Oh,
near
wow, really?
Dictator's Town, 165 coin. Daniel's going for 50 food right now. There's an 80
Wow.
wood. Oh, this is big down here behind Daniel's base. The
Yeah.
25% speed. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
There's some really insane treasures for both players. Of course, that villager is good for both of these civilizations. You know, China, they can't normally build settlers, but neither can France. So that basically is just +1 at the end of their boom. It's really, really powerful, especially taking that so early. There's also the 165 coin for Dictator on Dictator's side. Most likely it will be him that gets it. 80 wood is really nice for danielek, but that 25% HP is insane, especially as France.
That's interesting because Andy's usually known for like not very good treasures on the map. But of the 5 treasures, 4 of them are probably considered top tier treasures. Which is kind of funny. I think the 25 speed, don't you have to pick it up with a settler for it to apply to your settlers or your villagers or your court of law?
Yes. Yeah, so it has to be taken with, what's it called? You know, the unit that you want to buff. I'm trying to think of an example where you can have like a non-villager or non-explorer unit gather the treasure. I was thinking of like the Axe Rider, the card that allows Axe Riders to convert Guardians, but I don't think that allows Axe Riders to pick up treasures.
Yeah. But I think that's going to be more beneficial to France because China has patties, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, the villagers
Yeah,
won't
so
even be.
they don't move on the patties. But France, when they have mills and plantations, the villagers actually have to move and they don't gather while they're moving on the mills and plantations. So the faster they move on the plantations and mills, the faster they gather. So I think that really benefits France a whole lot more than it benefits China. He can still watch. He didn't share his pizza, so I'm inclined to agree with the dictator. All right, so it looks like Daniel has 17 villagers queued up. So 14 plus the 3 villagers, I imagine.
Yeah, this is actually a really wonky build order from Daniel. So he's gathering all of the food to go to Fortress Age before switching, I suppose, all over to coin. All of his villagers over to coin.
Yeah, that's what you'd think, but he doesn't. He still hasn't switched.
Yeah, I mean,
Has he already clicked to age up to 3 or to 2?
So he's getting placer mines right now, and I suppose that's what he's waiting for. Actually, you're completely right. He hasn't even aged up to began aging up to the colonial age. This is really, really strange.
So he has 17 villagers, and he only has 17 population. Okay, I'm confused at what's happening.
Me as well.
I'll be honest.
Oh, I get it now. Dictator was referring to, yeah, me and Floker are going to play it, as in they're going to play AoE2 Definitive Edition.
Oh yeah.
So it does seem like maybe this build order from Daniel was actually quite good, because I feel like if he had probably gone up with 16 Coureur de Bois, he might not have had the resources to immediately go up to the Fortress Age. And if he wasn't able to do that, for example, it would have been in his best interest to queue a villager after the age up, just in that transitionary period.
Yep.
So having built that villager
he's gonna have
before
enough.
aging up is gonna give him net him like maybe 150 resources.
Yeah, he's gonna be pretty tight, but I think he'll get there. He has actually a really, really nice distribution here. He must have practiced this.
Yeah, just gonna be.
He just aged up, and then he's.
There you go. That wasn't more than like 3 or 4 seconds. Really good distro.
That was nice. Yeah, he probably practiced that against like a computer or something, just to see how the distribution works out. Either that, or he's just like a god of on the fly macro, which is possible. He plays sup, so. So let's see, what kind of treasures have they gotten? So Dictator got the 165 coin and the Settler, and then Daniel got the 80 wood and 50 food, and he's going to get this speed treasure as well. So pretty balanced.
Yeah.
I'd probably give the edge to Daniel just because of the speed treasure. Because the longer you have it, the better it gets.
I really like the hunt position from Dictator. He's built all of these villages around this focal point, which is the hunt. And so his transition from chopping wood to get these villages to gathering food for the Asia has been really, really smooth.
Yeah, it has been nice. Let's see. Daniel's TC placement, I feel like could have been a little better, maybe. Maybe placing it more like over here between the two hunts.
Yeah, instead right here, there's a little bit of walking distance between this hunt. You might be able to herd this guanaco hunt over to his town center position.
Yeah, I guess he's between these two mines, so it's not that bad.
Even still, like, there's quite a bit of walking distance between either one of these two mines. I'm not sure that was like the most optimal, but having the town center locations close is also going to reduce the time that the explorer had to walk between building town centers, which does account for something. Helps to streamline his production a little bit.
Yeah, the way I see it is it's worth walking further with your explorer, because it's either walk further with your one explorer before you build the town center, or walk further with every single villager that comes out of the town center from there on out.
Yeah,
so I feel like it's kind of better to walk a little further with your explorer to get the better placement. But I don't know. I haven't done the math on it, so I wouldn't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But that's my intuition, I guess.
Just looking at the resources around the map. And so we see Danielek, his hunts are kind of all over the place. He has one over here, but it's next to, the mine, so that's a good location. And this one's pretty far out, kind of difficult to herd in.
Yeah, he actually has two over here.
Oh, really? Wow. There's one just slightly hidden in the brush there.
Yeah. Yeah, they are far still.
I feel like Dictator's...
He's gonna have to do his best to get him herded over there to his town centers.
Yeah. Dictator has really strong coin mine positions, like they're very close to his original town center. Plus, I feel like the spawn of these guanacos is really in his favor because it's, right by his town center. He's herded that one in now. his villages, and this one over here is going to be easy to herd into like maybe a position like right there, still like close to the coin mines, wood, and the other hunt that he has there. But that's only 3 hunts. This other one kind of to an errant corner where there's still not a lot of resources. When I say not a lot of resources, I mean like an available coin mine.
Yeah. But how many mines did Daniel have? Did he have all of his mines?
So we see the one in base. There's the one over here, and that's also close to his town center position. Another coin mine on the other side. He does have 4 mines, which is plenty enough to get to Imperial. I think
Dictator has 5, counting this one.
Yeah, I'd say that's mostly fair.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
I don't know. It's kind of far, but I don't know.
yeah.
Their hunts were even.
Actually, you know what's really interesting is there's not a single
no, he
tree.
does. He does have 5 mines. No, he has these 2 over here. Then his starting mine, and then his 2 up next to his town center. So it's 5 and 5.
Was that 5? Oh yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's actually a really
I
good
was
position.
Miscounting. Okay. Yeah, he actually has better mines than Dictator does. His mines are really, really close to his town centers.
So I find this wood actually pretty interesting. There's absolutely nothing in the center of the map, which kind of makes it. I guess the most salient point of contention will be like this middle position and around the native posts, even though that's not directly where the bases are, which is usually where most of the action in an NR20 game is focused on. A little bit unlike Treaty 40, where game is
a lot of the action.
Yeah.
A lot of the action would happen in the native side in a Treaty 40 game. It'd be like there would be basically nothing that happens on like this side of that middle trading post. Like nothing will happen in that little triangle, and everything will happen in the natives and in that kind of middle part next to the natives. But in 20, it's a lot different. But we'll see. I feel like natives are more important for China than they are for France, just because of the gendarmes. China needs probably a little bit more help defending against gendarmes. And France actually... Did France not send Royal Mint?
So
is that typical to not send Royal Mint in No Rush 20? I feel like it's not.
I think it is, because you aren't usually planning to get mercantilism in the transition from industrial to what's it called? Imperial. It's kind of a tough call, I would say, because you want to get the 10 courier shipment. Let's see if that's in Daniel's deck. It is indeed there, so I think that's going to be his first shipment. And he's going to follow that up with
factories.
Factories, 100%. But it is a question of if Daniel would be able to get up to the Imperial Age, then gather an additional 1,500 coin in the transition as he's going up to Imperial, before, he's kind of idled his home city from where he would be able to get mercantilism and continue his shipment progression. Kind of a tough call. I'm not quite sure what the exact resource bonus of having sent Royal Mint is. Maybe it's like 600 additional coin in the time it would take before you've exhausted the coin mines around the map. Not entirely sure, but
yeah,
probably not the worst thing to botch it overall.
Yeah, I think the 10 Coeur d'Bois is probably that's standard in 20. I know that for sure. So yeah, I mean, he probably doesn't have the cards sending 2 villager shipments to send the Royal Mint along with the factories and not have any idle time. Because assuming he sent Royal Mint, he might have to delay his second factory and have an idle home city for a short time. Yeah, not having played China, I'm just looking at the icons of these shipments, and it just means nothing to me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't compute.
So Daniel's actually sent, or sorry, not Dictator. He sent both of the basically the villager shipments for China. It spawns one from each village and then one from each town center. So in most cases, it's usually like a 9 villager shipment. But in the early game, it's like a 7 villager shipment. So it's like having Japan's 7 villager shipment, except instead of an age 3, it's an age 1. That's why we saw him build all of the villages at the beginning there. Let's see here. He sent it again in the Imperial Age, but he also has the Age 3 one. So he's going to be able to, you know, if he's lost some villagers, lost a lot of villagers actually. So, let's see, what is he going up with? Going up with the Temple of Heaven, it seems. So he's going to have an overpop of 119 villagers. He's going to have to lose a lot of villagers before he's able to send that third villager shipment. So that probably won't be relevant in this game. But I guess if there is ever a time where he needs to quickly remass on villagers, there will be the potential for that.
Yeah, and something else to consider, Daniel is going to be really tight on his capital upgrades. He's almost out of food.
Oh yeah, completely out of food. Now just distributing to his first mill. I'm not quite sure if it's upgraded. He's got the first mill upgrade in queue. And he does have refrigeration for what it's worth. He's got his factories up, but they're tasked to wood at the moment, which is going to help him get some more mills up. But obviously, unupgraded mills are not really what you want to be gathering on when you have Imperial upgraded wood that you gather.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, he has a couple animals here, but nothing really. I think he's probably having to cut villager production right now.
Yeah, so one of the bright sides of actually being forced to, you know, transition to mills and plantations early is that it kind of actually does make it easier to mass up your gendarmes first engagement at 20. Because obviously you'll have gathered a lot less wood and a lot less wood basically than you would have if you had total freedom over your build order. But the trade-off to that is that obviously you won't have the resources to upgrade anything else other than gendarmes, and so that severely restricts your options with what you want to do early parts of the Air 20 build.
Yeah, we can see Keshiks and pikemen coming out for China here. I'm curious if he's going to start full Keshik pike, or if he's going to mix some Chukunu in too.
Oh, we actually see Daniel, instead of going for the gendarme play like I was mentioning, he's actually going for fencing school right now, which kind of...
skirmishers, yeah.
Yeah, that'll clue us in that he's going to go for the tirailleur reform, I think. He's going to mass a lot of expo men as quickly as possible. He's probably actually going to go for maybe bastion walls first so he can hold a little bit longer and then, you know, get up to 200 out of 200 and then ship tirailleur reform and all those expo men into imperial skirmishers. I mean, it's a very, very defensive playstyle, but there's plenty of wood in Daniel's base, and he's not even fully gathering wood at the moment, so I don't think that's a big concern of his.
But at the same time, you gotta kind of expect something like that if you're a dictator, just because pure gendarme, like the typical France start, really isn't going to work versus China, just because they're cheap units and the Keshiks and the pikemen that they can mass pretty easily. So you got to kind of expect that he might start skirmishers. Maybe not sending the Expo transformation card, but like starting skirmishers doesn't seem too far-fetched.
Yeah, but even still, I feel like Dictator is happy to hedge his bets that, you know, if Daniel is going to go for the gendarmes, I'm going to prepare for that because that's a more aggressive strategy. And when he doesn't play that aggressive strategy, he's going for the skirmishers. He's playing hyper defensive. I'm content having my anti-cavalry composition because I'm still going to be able to establish control around these natives. My opponent's playing defense. I'm going to take the entire map and then exercise my advantage after that. Even though, of course, if Daniel were to push out at 20, and while he would have a good composition for what Dictator is massing at present, it's not going to work out that well because Daniel's just never going to go for that option. He's never going to push out at 20, I would expect. In fact, he hasn't even doing the tirailleur reform. He's just massing skirmishers.
Massing skirms, yeah, that
right out
seems
the gate.
reasonable.
Actually, he did the fur trade instead of
okay, yeah.
tirailleurs, which I actually don't really like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he does have a lot of coin, but I don't know. Oh, he's doing culverins too to kill the hand mortars. And actually, the treaty's over now. And so, yep. And Daniel's not even prepared. He doesn't have his explorer near the natives right now. So he's going to be a little late. Neither is Dictator, though. Oh,
Oh,
TC's.
yep.
Huh? Adish?
Yeah, and you can see Dick. He's going to get there before the trading post goes up. He's probably going to siege it down.
So Daniel is sending in his entire skirmisher mass, prodding out a little bit, but gosh, like there's just so many
Look at
China
the
units
mass in
there.
China.
Even though, you know, like his skirmishers will counter, you know, those Keshiks and those pikemen, once the Chukonu get forward, those are going to do really well.
Yeah, the Explorer cover mode isn't allowed, right? Is that?
Yes, so it is banned from the tournament.
Okay, yeah. It wasn't a cover mode. I was just curious. I remember thinking that was the case. So he's got his culverins coming out. Chukanu are just so good at range. They're better than skirmishers, for sure. Just cost efficiency wise.
So danielek is getting even still, he's getting a little bit of a slight lead in the skirmisher count. Obviously, he's
He just
massing
has
pure
he
skirmisher,
just has
but
so many more. Yeah.
so even though Dictator had
Actually,
the, go ahead.
He did get the trading post up, so that's good for Daniel. I don't know if he had time to get the training upgrade. He would have had to start it immediately if he did. And he did win the start fight, just on the account of Dick having no hand cav at all.
Yeah, so I can't confirm Daniel actually didn't get the upgrade, so his units are going to be training much slower, but he's, you know, closing in on max pop here. He's 180 out of 200. And
It's still not slow. Like it, he has fencing square and the church upgrade. I think he has a church upgrade, right?
yeah, and he's in a really good position. He's not vulnerable
I
to
like his position here.
whatever Dictator is going to field. You know, even if you were to able to get out, like, say, you know, a batch of cavalry from these two war academies, for one, they wouldn't be upgraded cavalry, and two, it just wouldn't be enough mass in time. But Dictator, you know, he is keeping the pressure on Daniel. Daniel just not doing the best job in, you know, establishing control over this side of the map. That's really where his focus needs to be at the moment, because even though he's won the start fight, you can even see he's a little bit misdistributed. If he doesn't get control, you know, it's going to be for naught. Dictator's going to be able to get the upgrades for his cavalry's counter composition, actually going for exalted step riders.
Yeah, but what this start fight win did do is it gave him the time he needed to kind of get transition to plantations, because that's kind of a hard transition to make as a European civ, because plantations are so obnoxiously expensive. Asian civs get like 400 wood plantations basically. They're double the cost. Oh, and here we have the step riders. Not that great of a unit, but still hand cav nonetheless. But Daniel's doing good, keeping behind his walls. The step riders really can't do anything. So he's kind of just fighting with 30 Chukanu versus 60 skirmishers.
I guess one thing that the step riders do decently is they're kind of an okay sponge with 30% range resistance, but that's basically all they are. And once your range mass, your range backing of those Chukanu starts to get whittled down, it can be pretty difficult.
Yeah, he did lose his cold if he shoots it. He has one cold that is 3 HP. Incredible. So his hand mortars are just having free reign to siege things down. The benefit is hand mortars aren't that great at siege, honestly. So he's gonna have a little bit of time to get his cold mass back. Just get, you know, 3 or 4 colds that he can deal with them with.
Yeah, I think this entire time that Dictator has been engaged in this fight at Daniel's walls, he's had the hand mortars focusing down a wall, and that is all that they took down is a single gate.
And we have this little bit of
Oh,
nuisance going down, you know. And he has got his wall up. really ugly wall, but it is up. Just horrible. But
Actually, they
so
finally get that native post, and he's actually going to be able to get the text right away from it.
yeah, which is going to be nice for him. And he did kill some vills here, so that's good. And we see a War Academy coming down for Dick on that side as well, so he's going to deal with that. Kind of a stalemate. They're both just not really doing anything right now. This might go into a pretty late game, and I think France has the advantage in a hyper late game.
No, I totally agree with you. I think because Dictator, you know, he didn't have the composition to, you know, press at Daniel's walls in time. I just wish he had established more control over this side than he did. You know, I think he should have had like 5 or 6, you know, aggressive villagers walling and, you know, building war academies at that position.
Yeah, because imagine at this exact moment, but Daniel has no natives, and there's like a wall here from Dick, and he has all 4 native points. Like he is in such a better position than he is now, and I feel like that's not too, you know, like I feel like he easily could have done that if he had just been prepared for it. But it's kind of hard because, you know, if France starts gendarmes like you would somewhat expect, then, you know, you could get pretty wrecked pretty hard if you extend like that far. But yeah, it is just a kind of a slow game right now.
I'm gonna take a look at the text.
And he has some Inca units now, so he is gonna have some anti-cav, which is really nice. Probably needs to pull him back now.
Yeah, and with these Flamingo on the field, let's see, are they legendary yet? He does have legendary in queue, a little bit late for this engagement. But a Dictator does have fully upgraded, it looks like fully upgraded China cavalry.
I said I prefer France's late game to China's, but that is contingent upon him having artillery, I think. I think it's really important to have artillery as France, especially against China, to be able to target their Chukanu mass and kind of whittle it down. But it's hard when he has like 20 hand mortars sitting here.
Yeah, so Daniel...
volley, so that's a big upgrade for his units.
Yeah, this is going really well for Dictator. Good production on the cavalry behind that.
Has Daniel even teched anything else? Like, is he teched anything except skirmishers?
So he does have the guard upgrade for Cuirassier, but not the Imperial upgrade. And he does have Imperial natives, but he doesn't have good native production. He doesn't have any of the embassies in his base. But he's still training from the native posts, and those are taking a really long time for him to reinforce, whereas Dictator has had constant cavalry batches, which is helping him to...
He does have legendary natives.
See a huge hand mortar mass, which is actually taking down these walls, and especially with the good cavalry production that Dictator has, he's going to be able to break down and put a lot of pressure on the skirmisher count of Daniel.
Okay, he just got Imperial Gendarmes, so that's good. And he's got a really good flank going on here.
Dictator
he's going to be able to kill a lot of these hand mortars. There's not very many pikemen here, maybe 10. But they are very good versus Gendarmes, so... I don't know. It's looking pretty even right now. These gendarmes are doing really well. Tanking. Most of the hand mortars are down now. The thing that is a big... This is what you gotta deal with when you let France kind of consolidate. Just obnoxious gendarme. Just the most lame unit. I hate them so much.
Yeah, Daniel's doing really well here. I like his distribution. He's even going to be able to, you know, get out some of his natives, continue his production. He has a really good skirmisher spread.
I think he does need to kind of contest these trade posts, though. That's something that I'm kind of concerned for. Because Dictator's had those 3 trade posts for quite a while now. We got a little party of skirmishers going around.
Legendary 2 skirmisher raid, which is might actually be able to pick up some kills.
Yeah, he's gonna actually get some villagers here.
Oh, especially because Dictator, he doesn't even have the the HP upgrade for his villagers. So I think they die in
Oh, he doesn't? Wow.
3 volleys from the skirmishers, but they're in melee right now.
He's meleeing with them. Why? And his gendarmes are all dead now. So he's going to pull back, which I think is the good one.
Yeah, you know, even though it was looking pretty good for Daniel, Dictator just coming ahead in the attrition war, he does have a slightly better economy, although that's...
Yeah, his score is going up. His score
dissipating.
lead is going up on Daniel a little bit. There's some more gendarmes. There's not much anti-cav out of... Yeah, these gendarmes are going to do really well right here. There's no anti-cav. There's a few Keshik, but that's it. Yeah, it's really even fight. Oh, and here comes Falconets.
Oh, wow.
Dictator. This is going to be good. So yeah, so he has to get Colbrins out now. He has no option now.
I think from this position, Dictator really only has to worry about smashing that cavalry, the Forbidden Army button, pushing in, getting a few more hand mortars so he can bolster down the walls.
Yeah, that's still the thing though, his hand mortars. Hand mortars aren't very phenomenal at siege, so it's going to take him a while to get in. Daniel definitely has time, at least. Daniel's micro has been really nice this game though. He's controlling his units pretty well.
Yeah, now coming in for a flank, might be able to pick up a kill on all of these Falconets if he's keen.
If he targets them, he's going for the mortars, which is interesting.
Oh, this is looking really good.
Yeah,
cleaning up all of them.
It's great value. And he has Incas on these meteor hammers over here, so yeah, he's doing really well. And you can tell just by that little kind of win that he had in that little battle, is the score lead. It dropped to 80 points from 130 for Dictator.
And looking at the military unit population, Daniel has so much more on the field right now.
Yeah, and they're all stronger, like individually. Do natives count towards the unit population?
So they actually don't, and I think Dictator, he does have a few more
That's
natives on the field right now. Yeah.
But Daniel has a really good wood bank, and that's good to see, because that's always kind of the issue when you're making a lot of natives. It's so easy to run out of wood, and him having that big of a bank and having enough other resources, I think he's in a pretty good position. It's just hard for him to push out. Like, I don't really know what his plan to win is. Like, he can just defend forever, I guess. He still only has Imperial skirmishers and gendarmes.
Yeah, so Daniel making a good use of the downtime here. He's sending out gendarmes all over the map to find villagers to raid. And that's
the sup instinct going around raiding.
Absolutely. He's actually killed 12 villagers
nothing here,
so far.
though, really. Nothing. Oh, look at this. He actually might be able to catch a little bit of...
Oh!
That's actually... If he sees...
Oh!
Maybe not. That's
yeah,
unfortunate.
no,
Dance, gendarme, dance. Yeah, he saw it. Just a little late. But he'll probably be able to pick up these 3 hand mortars. Like, it's actually insane. Or more. Like, who knows? Oh, he's going to fight. Okay. Okay, now we're finally seeing a little bit of a curveball from Dictator, which I think is the proper move. He's not making any progress in the middle. So kind of split.
But the main fight... Yeah, there's a lot of heat going around the map. There's even a 4 gendarme raid on this trading post, but I think because Chinese trading posts, they don't
He's
get...
looking for villagers still. But there's just none. There's none outside the walls, really, from Dictator. The only ones outside the walls are like right here, it seems like. Where is he gathering wood? He only has 6 on wood, so I guess he's not really gathering.
Yeah, just relying on the factories there.
Yeah. See, France. He is getting a lot of his. Wait, no, that was China that was getting the food silence. France getting a lot of his military upgrades. His skirmishers are really strong right now. He's got the skirm HP card and the skirm attack card. So his skirms are just insane right now. His Cav combat and the native card. He is getting overrun here in the middle, it looks like. And on his native side.
Having lost one native post, he did try to wall up a little bit more, but yeah.
It's just hard. Look how many Hominkas there are.
Yeah. There's just
I think he's going to lose both native posts if Dictator right clicks on it.
Oh no. Well, I don't think it was inappropriate.
It's weird.
To call
it turns so suddenly.
Yeah, there are a few points where, you know, Daniel's military mass was in a really convincing position, but I think Dictator was able to hold on. There wasn't really ever a point where he was completely cleaned up. Oh,
trading posts for wood. Yeah, of course. So yeah, that comes into what I was saying earlier. Contesting those trading posts. Even if you just send like 2 P-tards and just like bomb that one on the bottom.
Yeah, it's almost like an additional 10 or 12 villagers on wood at this point. 3 trading posts and the
I think it's like, isn't it 6 villagers when you have like the train, or 5 or 6 villagers? So it's like 15 mills, basically.
Could be.
Yeah, that's a big difference. I don't know. It seemed like Daniel was doing pretty well that game. Just couldn't really. He was always on the defensive. Like he wasn't really making any plays. He just kind of Dictator had full reign on the game to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah. It didn't go as poorly for Danielek as I thought. You know, as I was inclined to think it might have gone. I feel like Dick didn't totally wrest control over the the southeast side of the map where Daniel's natives are. He did eventually do that towards the later of the game, and that kind of was the crushing blow for Daniel, losing this portion of the map, his ability to produce his legendary natives, and then getting pushed in on his side of the base as well. But Daniel, you know, he did a good job. He got a good spread on his skirmishers, always had a good defensive posturing, was able to hold Dictator.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, and then best his composition. Push out a little bit, get some good trades, but it didn't end up being enough. Dictator's going to come out the victor. 2-0 in this best of 5 series so far.
The games have been pretty standard so far, it seems like. I'm wondering if there's some secret strats being saved for the grand finals if Dick makes it. Since he's up 2-0 now.
We have High Plains at the moment, which is kind of a non-standard treaty map.
Yeah.
I feel like there were any special sneaky plays that might happen in this semifinal series, they might come out on this map in particular.
I'm just waiting for the auto revolt. Ports have been pretty popular on this map. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Daniel goes port. Well, you have to go port now just to make it consistent.
Oh my gosh. The port mirror, the most engaging matchup. Although I do think between 2 very good players, it can be quite interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of like little nuance to the port mirror, I guess. You got to kind of focus on if you don't want to like go mindless with it. How's your stamina? I think that's one thing that Dick does have plenty of, it's stamina.
That's definitely true. I'm thinking back to, of course, you know, he's the treaty god, so obviously he's used to playing for 3 hours on end for a single game. But there's also, he played, I think, a best of 21, or was it a... No, it was a best of... It was basically a best of 28 I know, it was a best of 27 versus H2O, where they were doing, you have to win with every single civilization, so that's 14 wins. He played that with H2O. The series ended 14-4, but against one of the best Supremacy players in the game. That's a pretty respectable record.
That is obnoxious. I can never.
18 games
Never,
straight.
ever. Wow. So yeah, plenty of stamina.
So we will see game 3 in this series. Dictator currently leading 2-0. Best of 5. The map is High Plains. It's victory point for Dictator, so if he does win this game, that will put him on to the finals and unlock the potential for the grand prize, which I think is $250 out of the $500 prize pool.
That is something that I have seen Daniel do. He builds his market without going for a house. And if you do that, it's really tight on getting the house up before you get popped and have to idle your town center. But I think with a 200 wood start, it's okay. Because you can see he's 10 out of 10. He has 9 villagers right now. And so he's about to pop his 10th villager, and hopefully he won't have any idle. Yeah, so he made it this time.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I've seen him do that on coin starts, and I've seen him idle, I think, once or twice in this tournament from that.
This time it working out really well for him. He got it out maybe 3 or 4 seconds just before that last villager popped, just before he would have been idle. But yeah, really nice. Gonna streamline his hunting dogs upgrade, and that'll net him a little bit more food than Dictator.
Dictator already has a scout and 50 wood, so he's doing pretty good on the treasures. He's gonna have that extra scout, which is big. Being able to find the good treasures. There's usually good treasures on Great Plain map variants. 95 wood that he's about to come across here. 210 XP is nice. Daniel going for 80 food right now. 60 food. 320 XP. 2 stray sheep. That's a big one. 2 stray cows. Okay. So there's some decent treasures on here. The 95 wood, I think, the best. Oh, Daniel's going for the settler steel. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if Dictator sees it.
Oh, just too slow. Just out of position a little bit.
So that's like the double fail. It's like you have to waste your idle time for the settler walking and you don't get the treasure. It's painful. But it's worth the try. Like, you have to try.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, at the end of the day, what you're risking is about 40 or 50 food. But if you are able to get the steel, it's like not only 95 wood for yourself, but denying your opponent 95 wood. So that's like 190 resources overall.
Yep. Which is nice. It's interesting to see Daniel's already hurting like his third hunt, which is this deer up here. And Dictator hasn't. So I don't know if that's going to come into effect. I usually don't like to start herding till like late H2 maybe. Or using my second town center to herd, because the walking time, you want to get up to H2 as quickly, or H2 and 3 as quickly as you can. And there you go. He's going actually for the next one too. So he's gonna have really close hunts. So what that tells me, he's probably gonna start putting his TCs down pretty close to his start TC, since he's starting to herd this early.
Daniel even being a little bit sneaky there, taking one of the hunts that were close to half map and herding it to his side.
Yeah. Yeah. He has like no hunts on this far side over here. Like his hunt's like insanely far over here.
Yeah, in fact, extending his next town center, just Positioned by this
So
coin
he's
mine.
building it really far.
Yeah, even the placement of that, I'm not sure if it was within range or something. I feel like you could have extended a little bit further to get it closer to this coin mine and that hunt.
Maybe so.
I think it
That
might
might
just
be the
be,
range, though. It's kind of a screen away. So that might be the range.
I feel like it might just be like a supremacy instinct to place your town center a little bit further away from the resources rather than having it directly on it. I'm not quite sure what the theory behind that might be, but um, in a treaty build where you're trying to save as many villager seconds as possible, uh, even just like a small distance like this, is going to end up being more resources
I
than it
like
could
Dictator's
possibly have
placement, though.
worth. There you see.
It's right up next to those shirts. Close to those two hunts in that mine. So I like that placement, I think. And we can see that Daniel does have his 100 wood ready for his house that he has. Whereas Dictator decided to leave. He only gathered from his 400 wood agent what he needed to get his market upgrades. And then he left the half of that crate of wood on the ground just to not waste the villager second gathering it.
It's pretty keen. I think villagers gather crates at 8 wood per second. So by leaving the 60-ish on the floor, how many is that? 60 divided by 8. That's about 8 villager seconds. So that could be potentially like, 10 extra food in the bank. Just a small optimization.
But and it's kind of a trade-off because now Daniel's villagers aren't going to have to walk to the trees to gather the wood that he needs for the house, and Dictator's going to have to gather a little bit of wood with that crate in order to get his house up. But I think it's worth it because it's better to gather the wood later after you've started aging than before, probably. But it's probably not a huge difference one way or the other. Daniel going to get the 210 XP, which is really nice. I don't think it's a huge deal for ports because you stack shipments regardless. Because all you send is Eco Theory, and then you send refrigeration boil mint, and then 2 factories. So there's no real cards you send in between that you need the XP for. The main way that pays off is at the end towards the treaty time. You're going to have maybe a little bit more experience towards your next military shipment or something like that, or upgrade. So it doesn't really apply to the boom as much as it applies to having military shipments just a little bit sooner than your opponent. Yeah, and as a result, you can see Daniel's a few seconds behind Dictator aging up. So that's that little gathering wood. That's that little difference made.
Exactly as you call it. Having to switch the villagers, 7 villagers over to wood, now building a house with 4 villagers. So that small optimization he tried to make where he was going to basically save 10 food, didn't really pay off at all.
Yep.
How many villager seconds he had to waste there.
Yep. But I guess the way to justify it is you want the food to age up sooner than you want it's better to get a little bit of food for the age up than it is to waste a little bit more villager seconds after you've already aged. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So it's preference really, probably. It's not big enough of a difference to make really.
Yeah, I think
major change.
If that little optimization were to say, speed up his fortress age time by 10 seconds and allow him to get that 3rd town center up that much sooner, if he were able to have like a 1 or 2 villager lead over danielek for the remainder of the boom, it would definitely pay off, even though you had to spend that extra few villager seconds gathering the wood. Yeah. But at the end of it, for this particular game, 3v1 dear. I guess it's a little bit laggy. We are coming from all over America, and danielek is over in Britain, I believe.
Britain, okay.
think
Now
just
the real contention
ooh.
is happening here.
Over
Let me
two
tell
straight
you.
sheep.
I wonder if Daniel's even seen this hunt up here. It's so far away.
Yeah, and only 4 villagers tasked to that forward coin mine. It's hardly even worth justifying trying to bring that hunt in. I think he's gonna have plenty of resources to, complete out his boom and probably get the upgrades that he wants from the capital with just that hunt
Yeah.
there and based. Plus, one thing that he can do, or actually maybe not, he might not be able to reach the Cheyenne native post in order to get the technology that would grant 12 or 15 bisons.
Aren't they supposed to not build the post till after treaty?
Um, I'm not entirely sure. Do you know if so? Yeah, I think maybe the build radius for the town centers that doesn't spawn in these observer games, does it?
I don't. I know on some it doesn't, or I don't know if Dictator fixed them or not because he was talking about fixing one of the observer maps to where it would. I don't know if he has or not. I
So
think what's been happening is they just don't build them if they can. They just don't build them before 20.
yeah, probably they could probably come to an agreement.
Yeah, like a gentleman's agreement, kind of. Because sometimes one player can reach it and one player can't. Like I think Dictator's, well, he may be close enough this one. But I think Daniel's native posts are definitely too far to reach. So Daniel's actually popped right now. I don't know if he bought it. Is he? Yeah, he doesn't have the wood, and he's not building a house. He's gonna have to buy wood here. I think he might have forgot.
Oof. I
Yeah,
think is there any other place on the map that he's focusing on? He actually bought
he
200
bought
wood
two
there.
houses. Yeah, as port, you need one house per age. So you need one house per age transition. So you need one from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then that's the minimum you need basically.
Daniel actually bringing in every single hunter on the map, even this one, this coin mine, and the one at the north side that you were pointing out earlier.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. Like in 40, you wouldn't even imagine going for sun. There's just no way you would just go into mills. But in 20, you want to delay the transition as long as you can. You want to use up as many natural resources as you can. It's like a hybrid between supremacy and treaty. Like treaty, you would never imagine gathering the sun on your side, but in supremacy, you would probably go to here just to gather food, like on your opponent's side. So it's like a kind of in between.
Yeah, I think it was a good decision from Daniel, especially because if he were to play, like, there's no better position for his fourth town center, I feel like, than the position he took right here. Because if he were to do
Yeah.
it in base, like, there's no valuable resources. There's a silver mine with 1,000 coin left on it. If he goes this side, this still would have been okay, but basically he's doing the same thing. He's herding in a very far away hunt to an accessible location for his fourth town center.
And you want to have plenty of food to make sure you can keep villager because you have 4 town centers, right? So it's a lot of food that you have to put into villas, and you want to have enough for capital upgrades, like immediately. So you want to have a lot of villagers on food. Because if you're ever low on hunts or low on food when you're going to H5, it's like kind of you kind of either have to give up villager production for a bit to get your capital upgrades, or you have to delay your capital upgrades to keep villager production up. But when you have a bunch of hunts, then that's not an issue.
It does seem like
And
Dick
actually,
is.
Daniel's factories are on wood,
Oh,
which
really?
is usually different. Like usually you put them on coin,
We can see
and
Dictator already has steam power for his factories.
yeah. Okay, and Daniel's just now starting Steam Factory, so he putting them on wood until he gets the upgrade, and now he's putting them on coin, which I think is good, probably. Wait, what is that card that he just sent?
Banderantes. That's going to be the
Oh,
two
that's the
additional
Explorer card. I didn't even know
explorers.
what it's called. I just know it's 2 Explorers. So Dictator's sending sustainable agriculture instead. So he's going for an eco upgrade to start. I don't know if he's still going to send 2 explorers or not. I know he likes to send 5 organs before treaty. Like he masses goons and then sends 5 organs. But I'm not sure that's great against ports, like in a port mirror. Does he even have organs in his deck? Let's see. Yeah, he does. See, he has the 5 organs in his deck. Daniel has 3 mortars and 3 horse art. Other than that, pretty similar. Yeah, Dictator has 2P and the 5 organs, and Daniel has 3 horse art, 3 mortars. That's the difference in their decks.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting little switch
Daniel
up.
still hasn't gotten capital upgrades yet. Oh, he just got the wood one. Okay.
So he's got that one in queue?
He just got it. It just completed.
Okay. That's all right, because I think both players are actually have
Daniel. Yeah. Daniel actually didn't get his last market wood upgrade till after he was already Imperial. So I think Dictator is a little faster, just in the boom. His techs. Yeah, and 2 explorers coming out from Dictator now. So he kind of, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Daniel's going to send any more eco upgrades.
It's a Dictator coming out with a little bit of a better food gathering, having gone for this slightly greedier play of sending sustainable agriculture, but I don't even know if that's necessarily greedy. So we do see a Daniel. He's gonna get
Yeah, he's sending the dog too.
all 4 explorers before treaty.
Yeah, which I like. I like that a lot, just because they're so good.
Do you think it's really better than
Dictator sent the dog too?
Wow.
I don't know.
Really
Like
both of them.
it's like Daniel might have the experience to send goon range now, and Dictator probably won't. So I think that's like a big deal. Goon range in a port mirror, I think that's a pretty big deal.
You know, it's
or
just
Cav combat. Like you never, like I don't know.
just kind of wild to me that the metagame now, and at least in a Portuguese mirror, I'm not sure if it holds true for every other matchup, but Portuguese players are now sending 2 explorers, and well, 3 explorers, I guess, rather than goon upgrade cards, which kind of proves that it's better to have 3 explorers on the field than it is to have 50 Imperial Dragoons with 20 range. That's just mind-blowing, really.
It's obnoxious. It's truly. I think really like what this might come down to is who splits the best, like who takes control of the sides.
You can see there's
That's going to be a big deal.
exposed wood gathering.
You want to get away from the explorers if you can.
I feel like I do like Daniel's hard walling here. That's going to make him, just give him an impenetrable base. That's kind of hard to pressure. His extensions are pretty easy. Like you can just make a single vertical wall along this side, connect it over there, and you have a good control on that side. I
think both games Daniel's kind of given up map control. That's not going to fly on this map because of the 5 TPs. Like he's going to have to contest the map. If he just gives Dictator the TPs basically for free, he's just going to lose just from the eco that he's going to get from those. Yeah, so we can see Daniel sent Cav combat instead of sustainable agriculture. So Here we go, 10 seconds. So Daniel actually has a lot more population than Dictator does. I wonder what that's from.
Dictator just cleaning it up now, but like you were saying, the splits are going to be really important. Dictator sending 5 Dragoons to each side and just a 4 Dragoon mass down the center.
Dictator already has the second Capital Explorer HP upgrade, and Daniel only has the first one right now. So his Explorers are going to be a little bit better than Daniel's. And Dictator already using his crack shots. Daniel hasn't yet.
Oh, wow. You gotta leave it to Daniel. Like, he does have that Supremacy team game experience. He's sending up over some Dragoons to split on his own, but Dictator doing likewise. Getting a little bit better at the trade, even denying the walling on this side.
Yeah, he's doing it on that side as well. See, this is what I was saying. He's going to get trade post basically control because of that right there. And Daniel already sending mortars. I'm not sure that I like that. Like, there's no way that you're just going to roll over the opponent in a Portuguese mirror. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah, especially since he didn't even have the time to upgrade those mortars. They're quite weak and gonna get sniped down very easily.
Like I would literally just move them back inside of his walls and just wait there for them, just to not waste them. Like, there's no use for them right now. The only way that they would get used is like if you snuck them somehow, like this way, and tried to like mortar in the side or cheat. Like, actually, you could cheese.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, I just noticed that. Wow. He probably hasn't scouted that though, so I don't think we'll see that yet. And you can see his Explorers right here. I know Daniel, like when he port mirrored versus Tori for like an hour on one of his earlier rounds, and he was outperforming her basically in the fights, but his Explorer spam wasn't as good as hers, so she survived for like a stupid amount of time. And you can see that kind of happening here. His Explorers over on the side, not really his opponent's army. See, these are just gonna die for free. That's so sad.
Yeah, I guess just sending them out.
Oh, he's just going for the native post. Yeah, that's just so sad. It hurts my heart. He still hasn't gotten the native post yet. He doesn't have the upgrades for his goons, which is like a big deal. Yeah, Dictator already has both native upgrades. I think it's... I forget what the upgrades are. I think one's speed and one's something. I don't know, but I forget what they are. But they're good. I know that. And Daniel still hasn't gotten his trade post up. He just keeps losing villagers.
Yeah, even that's a really smart play from Dictator, you know, just kind of forcing the engagement over on this side. That will bring attention to Daniel to, you know, get that finally, you know, redistribute some villagers over to that side to get that trading post up. But I do like that Dictator was placing some pressure on it.
Yeah, he does have a villager on the other side, and Dictator doesn't have any army over there. So this kind of hurts too. Like, sieging with goons just isn't great. Okay, there he goes. He's moving them. Good. I'm interested who's going to add Castadors first. Dictator already has Imperial Castador, so he can add Cast right now. And he is. Yeah, there it is. So that's good for him. Yep, just a typical port mirror. just you know, what are you gonna do? But Dictator he's trading really well in the middle fight, just from the 30 Castadors he has just sitting there shooting the entire time.
Yeah, I do think this is quite engaging. I mean, we see some really strong play from Dictator, keeping Daniel busy on both sides. The wall hasn't even completely come up yet, and Daniel doesn't actually have Bastion yet. So Daniel has been able to put up almost a complete wall on both sides. He's got the north side locked down. It's just one small hole in his walls over here, but he has established control and has the natives up for himself. But
I'm curious to see who's going to get the trade posts. The actual like trade route trade posts.
I think this game might even be decided a little bit before that becomes relevant. Look at that.
Man. I mean, he was behind a pretty decent amount, but he probably could have kept fighting a little longer. But
yeah, at this point, 100 points down. That is quite a sizable lead in a Port Mir when the scores are actually quite low. Like, if it were 1,000 to 1,100, that would be one thing. But this is 700 to 800, so that's quite a difference.
He still hasn't even gotten all the cab upgrades out of the native post. He only got one at this point. So yeah, he's just being out traded at this point.
Yeah, even a full shipment behind at this stage. And he didn't have sustainable agriculture behind it. Yeah, well played from Dictator, and that will bring him 3-0. Winning this semifinal series and the potential for that first place prize money, $250. And even if he were to lose the final series, that's $150 guaranteed.